Welcome to another episode of the Dynamic Thriving Podcast. I am your host, Marianne Pack, spiritual medium, author, publisher, and joyologist, guiding you into all things life transformational. And in this series, we are talking to the authors, the co authors of our Keys to Joyful Living. It's a podcast and a book anthology. And today I have my beautiful guest, Melissa Lombardo, with me. Good morning, Melissa. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. And I am so appreciative that I'm part of this project.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm so glad you're here and spending time with us and that you are contributing to Keys to Joyful Living. So let's just jump right in and ask Melissa, who are you and what good do you bring into the world?
So my name is Melissa Lombardo, and I think just ever since I was young, I was taught from a very young age just to be kind to others. So I try to bring as much good as possible into the world and affect the world around me. I am a trauma-sensitive author. I'm an encouraging speaker. And I also am the founder of a brand called Right Heal Thrive, where I support others in finding their voice and finding healing and finding thriving through some of the things that they've went through their lived experience. And I was able to find keys to joyful living when I began finding joy in my own life. And I realized that when I started to find joy and when I started to heal and thrive from a lot of my past traumas, the world around me changed. And people crossed my path, and I just started to, I think, just bring more joy, and people brought joy into my life. It was this two-way street, if you might call it that.
Yes, it always is. It's always definitely we're putting it out there and it's coming back. We're putting it out and it's coming back. So the more we can live in that joy, the more we will have that return to us. So I love that so much. And again, as I always say, our mess is our message. So the things that we go through are the things that typically are on our heart. They're so personal that many times we actually work in those fields and bring that message forward. And this is what you're doing, Melissa. And then we also find those keys that helped us along the way. And this is what this book is all about. And again, folks, this anthology is so different from most anthologies because it's not, you don't just hear from the authors one time in one chapter. We set this up to be under topics so that each author weighs in on topics that are her expertise, that are her heart, that's her message. And so the keys that she found that helped her through her mess. So what were some of those? What's that mess to message for you?
So that's a big question. So I'll answer it with a few things. I think all of us in life, we've all gone through something. And what I've learned through my own healing and thriving, and I will talk a little bit more about my mess in just a minute. And I think what we learned from that healing and thriving is what counts and what we do with that to make it into something. And I think that for me, and one of the biggest things I went through was being sexually assaulted when I was a college student in my 20s. And at that time period, I was this young girl. I had these big eyes, a thirst for learning. I was very involved with the international club. I was very involved in getting to know other cultures. I loved to try food from other areas. And so within that, I think I was just, I was so ripe at that moment, as this young person. And then to have gone through such a violent experience, I closed myself in. And for many, many years, I didn't thrive. And I looked at others and I said, look at that person is thriving. Or I would read books, about alignment, about manifestation, and different authors, or, and even parables that talked about that through stories by some famous authors. And I always, knew it existed, but I didn't know it existed for me. And over the years, I did have a lot of family and friends support. And as time went on, the other thing that happened was that I started getting really sick. And I didn't link that to my mess. I didn't link that to my trauma from when I was in my 20s. My health started going downhill, and I was actually diagnosed with a first stage cancer, and I had a lot of other illnesses all at the same time. 20 years passed, another traumatic event happened in my life, and that is really what propelled me to kind of think about what was happening and if I perhaps needed to heal more. Because at that point in time, this was just about 5 years ago, I thought to myself, maybe I haven't healed the way I thought I did. And as I started to reflect a little bit more, I realized that what I had done these past 20 years, up until the 5 years ago, was to really just kind of push down that trauma. And as I pushed it down and I put it into this little compartment, it started to manifest itself. So even though I thought it wasn't there anymore because it just didn't exist, because in my own head it didn't exist, it really did. And as we all know, trauma affects the body, and it affects how you breathe, it affects how you walk, you talk, it affects your relationships with others and how you even live in the world around you. And it wasn't until those 5 years ago where I realized that I need to heal for real. And that's when I started the biggest journey, which wasn't just going outside to another country, which I love to do, but it was actually the journey inwards that made the most sense for me, and that made actually the most difference. So I think I used all these tools and keys I had gathered throughout the years, just in my experiences, in the world around me, and then went really internally and using methods, keys like yoga. And I started to run, and running became my morning meditation. I started to talk to family members about what had happened to me. And I rely heavily on journaling. And that's been, I would say that might be one of my biggest keys. And, journaling led me to decide to publish a book. And kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning, and which was, just what do you contribute to the world around you. I decided that I didn't want to just heal for me. I wanted to heal to be able to help future generations, my son and other kids that I've raised throughout the years, and nieces and nephews, and people I don't even know. I wanted them to know that I can heal too. It's possible. Healing is possible. Thriving is possible. And then out of alignment with the universe, I started to feel like I was finding joy. And that led me to reflect and lead me down a path to meeting Marianne, who I'm interviewing with today.
Oh, that's so. I'm glad that you mentioned that even these underlying things that we do think we've healed through, or maybe we haven't even started that path. That trauma does affect our body, because you're carrying the vibration of that emotion that we tend to, we can stuff down for years. And because that's certainly how it progressed in my life. It definitely made me a very sick, even from an early age. So, there's definitely an effect on our body, because our body just can't take that energy level, that low energy level. It diminishes our health.
Yes.
And you started already on offering, some of the keys. So, these keys that we're talking about in this book, these are tools and tricks and methodologies and techniques that we used in our healing process. And we found that they work for our clients too. So, go ahead and talk a little bit more about some of the keys that unlocked this joyful living for you. What did you do? What were some of these things that you implemented? You mentioned a few things already, but delve into that a little bit deeper and share with us those keys.
Yeah, for me, there are so many, and I know you're all going to have to read this book to find out so many, but I will share a few. I think there's a fabulous way for me to ground myself is to be able to remind myself to breathe. I know that sometimes in the past I've gotten really caught up in just the day-to-day. My mind, I think my past traumas have had the tendency to make me kind of push through without really reflecting. So I might get to the end of the day and I realize that I haven't really breathed well. And over my healing process, breathing was very, very important for me. And as I started to be conscious of my breath or be conscious of the fact that I wasn't breathing correctly. And, I realized that those things were helpful, just being conscious, just being aware of what's happening. Or if I am speaking to someone and I might have an internal reaction, it might not have anything to do with that person that I might be speaking to. It might be something else that's a response from my past or something that's coming up in my past. So it's being able to recognize, why am I resisting certain thing, or that I've come across, or a certain person, and then being able to reflect on that. A lot of these experience, or a lot of these keys, things that have helped me through, also then go to the next level for me, and they go into my journal. This happened to me today, and reflecting on it, or even practicing gratitude. I'm glad that this happened to me today because it gave me the opportunity for further growth or further learnings. And so it's being able to take some of the experiences that happened during the day, and then be able to reflect on that in the evening, and then also be grateful and thankful that that was able to happen, to be able to continue that same healing path. So some of those things have really helped me over the years. In the morning, something else that really grounds me is just waking up slowly and moving my body just very slowly to check in. How are my muscles today? How does my back feel? How does my calf muscle feel? I'm a runner, so sometimes my calf muscles, need to warm up a little bit more, so I don't pull a muscle, because I don't want to not be able to do something that's been very healing for me, which is running. And as I run, I breathe. I'm at one with whatever, with the steps that I'm taking. I can hear the birds. I can hear the music of the universe, the trees. I don't listen, for me, I don't listen to music, because I want to be within nature, which for me is a symphony. So those are some of the things that I do. And just, small steps that I think we can all take, reminding ourselves to drink a glass of water, reminding ourselves to have a snack, an apple, an orange, a pear, and it could be some cheese and crackers, just something, that keeps us going, because then we might get to the end of the day and we haven't eaten anything, we haven't drank anything, and then we might not be good for us or anyone else around us, because now we're short, we're short tempered, so I think some of the, in the beginning for healing for me and thriving, it was really being able to take care of my basic needs. And that was so crucial and critical. And it was something I couldn't do post trauma. And it was hard for me just to wake up in the morning to remember I need to take a shower and to actually do that. Because when we're going through a really difficult situation, or we're maybe living in difficult circumstances at the time, sometimes self-care is really hard. So self-care, I think, is the basic to be able to start to heal, or to at least be able to function. So wherever you are at in your healing, in your thriving, if you're just starting, healing's not linear. So you might start and then something happens and it goes back, and so you go back and forth. But it's just putting these self-care practices into place so that you do have a base to work from. Because I know personally that I got to the lowest of the low, my mess, and I had nowhere else to go except for up. So I had to go up. And it was going up that I started this process of drinking a glass of water in the morning. And I still do that today. I drink a warm, room temperature glass of water when I wake up in the morning. And after that, I have a routine. So those self-care practices have stuck with me, and I continue to do that. So no matter how bad I might feel about something that might happen in my life more in the present, I still take care of myself. So I am not going back to that lowest of the low ever again. And I think that's a really important place to start. So if all somebody might do, while they're on this path, is to remind themselves to, wash their face, or remind themselves to write one sentence of what they might be grateful for, that's a start. And so I think they're little steps that we learn to take, that those little steps come into big steps, and we move about this journey where we could find joy in our lives, and we do have joy, and then we live joy, and then you'll realize that it is amazing, and you won't be going back, because it's only going forward now. And I don't think I believed it myself until the last few years. It's something I always knew existed, but can I have this? Can I really have this in my life? And yes, I can. And I know that you can too. To whoever's listening to this, you can have joy in your life. And that's what the universe and that's what we all want for you as well. And I think that's what's so special about the authors that have written, in this book, with Marianne. We all have found this and we want everybody to find this because that's what the universe wants us to be. And it's amazing. And I'm getting, look, I don't know if you can see this audience, but I'm getting goosebumps. And that's when I know I'm on track for something. And this is where I'm supposed to be going. And this is where I'm supposed to be. Goosebumps for me are affirming. And they are a reminder of, yes, Melissa, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. And this is just the beginning. And this is just the beginning for everyone else as well.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't say or scream yes louder or harder. I love all these points that you made because that's it. When we're in those depths and we're ready to give up, because I've been there. I've not wanted to exist here on this earthly plane anymore, and had to, fortunately, didn't decide to take action. So, when you're in that, you just don't even consider that joy could be possible for you. Yet the thing is, our inner being, our soul, our spirit, that eternal God spark in us is always joyful and calling us to it. And I think that's why we have that innate desire, because our inner being is always calling us to live that way because they're living that way and they know that's who we really are. So, yeah, it is, there's going to be times when we just don't feel like that could even be for us. Happiness, joy, are you kidding me? Do you know what I've gone through? Yes, we do. We've experienced it. We're right there with you. We've just progressed beyond that, and we're spiraling upwards. Like she said, she's never going to get back into those complete, the lowest of the low, because you can't go backwards. You're always perceiving from a higher place as you grow and you heal. So the spiral is going upwards. And even if you pass by that subject again, it doesn't affect you near as strongly as it did maybe the first couple of rounds. So in this, healing journey, as we're moving upward, there will be times when we pass by it again. And you'll notice, I think the biggest takeaway that I have from what you're talking about, again, is staying aware, becoming aware of how you feel, because our emotions tell on our thoughts every time. So I always tell people, check in with yourself. How are you feeling? If you have to, set alarms on your phone to ring every hour, every few hours during the day, just to make you stop and say, I need to be aware of how I'm feeling right here, right now. Is it feeling good? And then I know that then those previous thoughts have been for my highest good, or am I feeling bad? Am I starting to slump? And so in talking about this slumping again, so when you're just not feeling it, you're not feeling the joy, there's something that has come in and stolen your joy. There's been a thief there that's kind of knocked you off balance. How do you get back on track when you're just not feeling the joy?
That's a great question, and I've been thinking about that because I read this book, and there's a book called Choose to Be Happy, I think it was, and there was a story in this book, and the author was writing about how he needed to go out and give this conference. He felt so burnt out, he didn't know if he could do it, and he was almost going to cancel. And it was about 2 or 3 days before the conference, and he was the big name for this conference, and he. And this is something I do, and what he said really put into words something that I was trying to put into words. He one day woke up and he changed his perspective. He started to get excited about it just by changing his thought process, that this is going to be a great conference. And actually, this particular conference in the story, it turned out to be great. It was one of the best. And I had opened that particular book and just opened it to that. Sometimes I like to just open up a book to a random page and see if there's any, knowledge for me there. I had been having a similar experience because I had at one point in time, at one point in time, I was thinking about doing something. I felt excited about doing it. And then when the moment came to actually now do this, I started to kind of tell myself, nope, can't do it. I'm not, I started to be very, very negative, with my thoughts. And now I can't do it. And I had to remind myself, wait, but I was so excited 3 days ago that this was going to happen. Now it's here. And now I'm really dreading it. And I saw that's how I got to that story. And I started thinking to myself, okay, makes perfect sense. I know I wanted to do this. So yeah, I want to do this. Melissa, you are going to do this and you have wanted to do this and this is supposed to happen. You're going to love doing this, and thinking about it in a very different way. And let me tell you, and this was just last week, this past week has been amazing. I've been able to find that reason once again, and I'm now excited of something that I was actually really apprehensive about going through the process. So I really took a lot of knowledge from that story. At any rate, sorry, that was a long-winded story, but I think what your takeaway on that, is it's that perspective change. It's also being able to reflect. And yeah, there's going to be moments where there is a thief of joy. It might even be a person who is trying to stop you from doing something. Oh, you can't do that. And then you start to internalizing that. When I started running, I'll just tell you a short story about running. I'm not a runner, never was a runner, didn't like running. I used to play softball in high school and the coach had us run a couple miles before each practice. I disliked it greatly until just about a year or so ago, I was talking to somebody, and this particular somebody caused me to have this inspired action of, I want to run too, because I finally found a purpose in running. My friend ran to honor slavery, victim of slavery, and he would run a mile and he would talk about slavery after each mile, and he was telling me about that, and I was so touched, how he's bringing awareness and education for an institution that happened in the United States. And when he was telling me that, I thought, I want to run for survivors. I want to run for survivors of sexual assault and honor them while I'm running. And I ended up telling a friend of mine after that someday I'm going to run a marathon, because that's what this other friend had told, Kevin had talked to me about doing that with marathons. And this other friend I was talking to said, oh, you're not going to be able to run a marathon. And part of me said, oh, maybe I can't do it. And then I recapacitated myself and I said, well, maybe not tomorrow, but someday I will. And it all starts with one step. So it's also being conscious of, oh, wait, why am I suddenly, resisting this, and then thinking about it and then still going ahead and doing it. So I'll have to tell all of you in the audience, in the last year and a half, I have not run a marathon. However, I have run enough miles in timed races to equal the number of marathon miles. And every time I run, whether it's a 5K or my first 10K, which was just a few weeks ago, I run for myself, for healing, and I run for all survivors everywhere of any type of trauma. And I think of them and certain people that pass through my life with every step of the way. And every time I get to a new mile, I silently in my mind send out love to all those survivors and all those people who are working through the things in their life to find joy. I made a shirt, and on the front of the shirt, it says, you are limitless. So anyone that looks at me could see and repeat that affirmation and think to themselves that they are also limitless. And on the back of the shirt, it says, to the person behind me, you got this, to be able to support anyone who's still in their journey, or in this sense, running, but also the spiritual journey of, you got this too. So I thought when I was running that 10K, I had people behind me as they would run past me, you got this. Or I would have people that were in front of me filming the runners say, hey, you are limitless. And they're saying these things and they're putting this out into the world. And I just know that somehow these messages are going out there and they're reaching people that might need to hear it at that day. And I know I need to hear it. So what I think, one of the things that for me is to be able to, I kind of lost, I was so excited on that point. but I think the important thing is, just to be able to put that energy out into the world. And if I don't feel maybe joyful in the moment, I remember all of these things. I just have to kind of replay some mental imagery of I am limitless, or think about some of these moments, and it totally puts me back on track, that it doesn't matter anymore what other people are thinking, because I know that I'm on the path that I'm supposed to be on. And this is what, and things just, it's amazing. Things just happen naturally. I didn't go into running thinking I was running even a 5K, because it was pretty big. I'm going to run a marathon someday, and then starting out small. I didn't think I was going to make this shirt that would replicate things even more. It just kind of opened up. Oh, I want to make a shirt. I want to do this. And it just felt right. And so I made a shirt. I didn't know if it was going to be done in time. There was a couple different roadblocks there. The company wasn't able to do it. And then the design didn't come out good. And then I found someone else. And the day before the race, the 10K that I wanted it for, it just happened. And I had this shirt. And I said, wow. And that was done in a week and a half. I just decided a week and a half before, and it was really late to do a shirt. And I went through these different things that always continue to block it. And I said, okay, if I have a shirt or not, oh, well, it doesn't matter. And then here I stopped resisting and stopped trying too hard. And now I suddenly have the shirt. So it's such an amazing journey that I hope others will be able to feel in their heart that they can. And as they keep going through their process in life, that at some point you will.
Yes. Yes. I love all of that. And like you were talking about, it's just, you never know what the effect is going to be. When you finally release the resistance, you're not releasing your desire. That's not what we're doing. We're releasing the resistance to the desire. And that's one of these keys, that you stop resisting, you stop throwing up that listening to other people's opinions, how she could have said, oh, I can't do that. Maybe you're right. Maybe I can't do that. Well, yeah, not tomorrow, but eventually, so I love that part of it. And I just love that you're open to releasing the resistance, because when we're just not feeling it, it's just because we hold resistance to what we desire. We're telling ourselves, you can't have that. You're not worthy. Look the trauma you've gone through. Nobody that's been through your kind of trauma is going to make anything of themselves. They're always going to be the victim. You can listen to all this outside garbage, all these outside lies, when your inner being is saying, no, you're love and joy. I see it totally different. So I love that, again, you're bringing awareness to that we just have to keep moving forward. And sometimes that moving forward, like when you were saying about being in resistance to something that you've been so excited about, sometimes that's simply, we think it's fear, but it's excitement. And excitement can feel like fear, because you've been excited all along the way. And then when that little snippet of fear comes in, that's just guidance telling you, wait, get back on track. And so you're willing to go back and go, oh yeah, it doesn't matter whether the t-shirt came in or not. And so you release the resistance to it, and boom, the universe can provide it in miraculous ways and in just the right timing. So I love that.
I just wanted to mention something that you said a little while back, about, the same scenario might pass through, but you'll be able to handle it different. So for a lot of people, I think, who are sexual assault survivors, we have triggers. I think just trauma in general, we might have a trigger about something. And I realized that over the last, 20 years, I had triggers in the beginning that I handled in one way that was very different from how I handle a trigger now. And I've had these experiences where, things have triggered me. And 20 years ago, I would have been literally in a ball on the floor, probably crying. As time passed and as I was able to work through those, I had very different experiences of how long it took me to get out of that that mentality, that mindset that this is not happening now. But one particularly powerful experience for me was about a month before I published my own book on the hurt, healing, and hope of thriving post-sexual assault. And I was taking a shower. I'll be very vulnerable with all of you out there today. And I was taking a shower, and I had a memory of something that I did not remember. What I didn't remember was that after the sexual assault, I took a shower. It sounds very simple. This is the first time I'm actually speaking about it publicly. It sounds like a very simple thing, but I didn't remember 20 years for all those 20 years. There's this memory locked away somewhere. And now I'm in the shower, taking a shower. I put my hands on my shoulders in a certain way. And suddenly this memory comes out of nowhere. And I really didn't know what to do with it at the time. Yes, I did cry, and it brought me into that past. But what it actually later made me do after a few minutes was to say, oh, wow, there are things I don't remember that I mean, I do in a sense, but there are things that are locked away somewhere that may or may not come out in my life. I don't know what else there is. And however, the way that I was able to work through it and later hug myself and care for myself beyond that unlocked memory was something that I know I would not have been able to do 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. I wasn't even ready for that. So in the sense that healing is not a linear process, and then finding joy is also, and living joy is also a process. So we go back and forth with these things, and I felt proud of myself of how I was able to come out of that trigger rather quickly, and also have that now new lived experience to add into my toolbox to help and to support the people that I come into contact with that are looking for support from me, and to be able to say, I've been on this path, I've been on this road. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, because I've been through all of this. And if someone comes to me saying, is it normal that 30 years later, I'm 70 now, I had this trigger, 5 years ago, and I was 65, of something that happened to me when I was 30. Yes, it's completely normal. And those are the moments where those self-care keys also come into place, because then you're able to self-care. So it's such a and it's everybody's journey is also going to be different. So you have to know that what might work for one might not work for another, and you can mold and you could blend the things that work in your life. And I think that's also what's really fascinating about this book, is that there are different perspectives and different keys that everyone has, and you can pick and choose from whatever everyone else says and put that into your life. Because the idea that I think I can speak for everyone else, we want everyone else to live these same keys and to live in joy, and that we're all here for that reason, to support healing, thriving, finding joy, living your best for a life, transforming, finding your geographical soulmate. We all want you to find those keys that are going to make you live that best life possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, because even for myself, you talking about this upward spiral. Now when I get triggered, because I'm still passing by some of those old beliefs or some of those traumas, um, it doesn't take me months and maybe years to get over something. It may take me the longest a day, and sometimes it's just within minutes to be able to catch it, because I've become so aware and trained myself to be aware, and use some of my tools. Breathing, I'm another one like she is. I'm much more conscious, because when you're in trauma or you're feeling that tension, that resistance, we shallow breathe. We do not fill our lungs. So that's another healing process, because when we inhale, we are summoning life force through our bodies, not only to heal us physically, but spiritually and mentally. So spirit, mind, and body then are being soothed so that we come back into alignment and come back into who we really are as love and joy embodied. And um, so I was wondering if you had a story maybe to tell us, even about maybe a client or someone you've worked with that took some of your keys and had some successful healing. And again, we're talking, it's nonlinear healing that we usually talk about it being an onion where you peel back. And 30 years later, you're still peeling layers back, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't, I still find things that I go, whoa, I thought I worked through that one. But I don't have a diploma on the wall that my healing star certificate. We don't get that. So it's always a process. But maybe you have a story that somebody else used
Mm-hmm.
some of the keys that you offered them and you heard an improved life from them.
Yeah. So I'm also a sexual assault crisis advocate,
Mhm.
and that's been an important role for me. And a lot of the time, so I think I'll speak generally.
Oh, yes.
Since I'm also since I'm an author and since I'm a speaker, a lot of times I will go to holistic healing wellness fairs. I will go to
Mm.
craft fairs. I will do different events with my husband, who's also my book illustrator, and we'll take art therapy in two different locations as well, and we'll work with people to create relaxing watercolor landscapes and have them work on creativity is really important as well, in addition to writing. Art and creativity are other ways to find joy, to heal, and to thrive also. So we do a lot of that, and then speaking engagements as well. And what I'd like to, I guess, touch upon is, just in these small moments, I think that everything happens for a reason. And there are people that cross my path or I cross their path for just that right moment in time. And what I think really affects me a lot, not just working with someone on an individual basis, but being able to, for example, give a presentation. I recently gave one about finding your authentic voice, and having people come up to you afterwards telling you that they had already read your book or got your companion journal, and they have listened to some of, and this happened to me recently, and they have listened to my podcasts, that I've appeared on before, and they've taken some of these advice without me actually working with them one-on-one and without me actually having known, and them coming and telling me that, one, some of them are also survivors, and two, others have identified with me even though their trauma has been different, and sharing with me how those materials that I've already put out into the world, or just the voice I've used out into the world, have supported their healing. And so that, for me, again, I'm getting my own goosebumps. So that for me has been reasons to say, Melissa, you are on the right path. Keep going. This is, what you're supposed to be doing. Because, when we do the work that we do, we make ourselves vulnerable. I'm making myself vulnerable here with just some of the stories I tell. And sometimes I think, oh, did I say too much? Did I share too much? But I never know, and I think I do know now that every time I speak about something that's difficult, it's healing. And for me, it's reforming a connection in myself. It's solidifying, that my health is going to continue to improve. And it's also supporting that in someone else. So it is doing that same replication. And so those are the moments that when I hear that type of feedback, those are my reminders. Those are to say, keep going. You are supposed to do this. Because also, for me as a survivor of sexual violence, it's a topic that we don't talk about a lot, and it's something that needs to be talked about, because part of the healing and the thriving and the finding joy comes from being able to take it, hear something that's inside you, and get it out into the world in a way that can help you heal, that's conducive to you also being able to live your best life. So for me, part of my purpose going back to that mess to message, is to be able to be comfortable talking about a topic like this in any, public private space, because I know that it's going to replicate out there. And not just talking to survivors, talking to supporters, talking to people that might not normally talk about it. And so just for me, advocating and helping others become aware of what it is, and to say, hey, I know Melissa, she's a survivor, and look what she's been able to do. And wow, wait, changes my mind about, what does it mean to be a survivor, or what it means to go through trauma. So I think those are the general things. I mean, of course, working with someone on one-on-one, just having them be able to, have similar feedback of, oh yeah, I did the journaling exercise, or, I read that passage in a book and that really did helpful. Yeah, it totally resonated with me. And thank you for suggesting it. And I do that with friends and family as well. Oh, have you heard about this author? I think that author would be really great for you. Have you ever tried this activity?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like, the things that, when we become, coaches, and when we become authors and speakers, I think, since it's so, for me at least, it's passion. I found my purpose, my mission. I know what out of something so difficult, I found those next steps, that support me and everybody else out there. I think I naturally do that everywhere. I'll be talking to a friend, and, I'll be listening in the way that I learned to do that as a coach, and I'll be practicing these methods, with my friend. And then I'll have a friend saying, hey, after I spoke to you, I feel so much better. I'm definitely going to go out and do this, or yeah, I'm going to totally look into that resource. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And then it's like, oh, this is really great, and I have a couple of friends of mine that come to mind, and that'll probably be listening to this podcast. We have, like, one particular friend I can think of right now. Him and I have both positively impacted each other's lives, because he also is going through a similar type of training, and he went through other types of, difficulties and traumas and things. And he's also on this path of healing, thriving, finding joy. And, we chat, as friends, but I always come out of those conversations thinking, oh my gosh, I just learned a lot. And that totally regrounded me. And he said the same thing, like we support each other in living our best lives, because we're aligned with that, internally, and it shows externally. So I think it's just fascinating how, we have the ability to affect, and it's our choice of how we're going to affect those around us, positively, negatively, how we're going to go about our day. And, so I think that all of us have this great opportunity and potential to positively impact the world, and and to be able to find the healing, thriving, to impact it even more. And I think we'll never be upset with that result. If we're going into it, positive and impacting positively, we're always going to feel joy after that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's been so many times that I've talked to people, and they'll say, oh my gosh, you put into words exactly what I was feeling but didn't know how to say, or, suggesting. And like you said, these keys, we've practiced them enough, and with clients and with others, friends, family, whatever, we know they work. They're replicatable. So these are keys that you'll be able to pick and choose from, because again, there's each of these authors have different keys, and my key may not work for you at this time, and Melissa's keys do. So pick and choose, like she was talking about. Pick and choose what you want from this book, because we have these authors that are all weighing in, and you'll be able to resonate with somebody's story, somebody's technique, the keys that they offer. You'll be able to find yourself there and find something that works for you, because we all talk about them slightly different. And this is why it's so important um, to have such a variety to offer you in this book, because as they're talking about their keys and what was helped them through their mess and with their clients, they've come to these places where they are replicatable. These keys can be taken and used, and you will find the right keys for you in this book, all throughout the book, because there are so many topics in this book to cover. Thank you, Melissa, for spending time with me. And where can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
Yep, they can find me on the web. It's www.melissabiliombardo.com. All of my social media is also under Melissa B. Lombardo Author. I have a Facebook, I have an Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel. But definitely go to that website, melissabiliombardo.com first. And from there, you will find all the links, and you can even listen to some of the podcasts and see some of the blogs I've been guest author on as well, and some of my other publications, and a little bit more about the business I founded, which is Right Heal Thrive. So yeah, take a look at my website and join my newsletter, and you can contact me, and I would love to hear a little bit more about you and respond as well.
Yes. And the name of your book again is?
My book is Hurt, Healing, and Hope, Thriving Beyond Sexual Assault. There's a companion journal and then another blank journal for further reflection.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And this will be in the show notes so that you can find her, and be sure and follow her on social, because she puts out a lot of good content there. And yeah, go to her website, melissabiliombardo.com. So do you have any wonderful parting words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with?
Yes, I'm going to say 3 things, and I encourage you to write them down on a sticky note or lipstick them on your mirror. You got this. Yes. You can, and you are limitless. Those are my 3 phrases.
Yes. I love those. I love those. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'm so looking forward to sharing this book with you. We have a launch date. It'll be in the fall. So we're working towards that. All of our authors are diligently writing, and we're having author meetings. And it's been so much fun for everybody to get together and be able to express themselves in this book in a way that I don't think they thought might come out. Because sometimes our authors are in a healing process while we're writing the book. And I'm in that too, because I'm writing all the introductions to every section, and then they come behind me and fill in where their heart leads them to talk about. So if you are interested in visiting with me about exploring publishing, you can find me on www.envisiongreatness.com. It's my website. If you have a book being called through you, because that's how our books come, they're called through us. And or if you have a journal, a workbook that you want this companion to up-level an event or a program, I have access to that. If you need ghostwriting, we have so many ways to be able to serve you, to get your story of hope and healing out into the world. And it's so important for us to continue to share our stories, and especially focus on the healing part, the hope for healing. That's what I want all my authors to express. Yes, we have stories to tell, and they're traumatic, and we can touch on those, but that's not the primary thing. The primary thing we want you to get is the tools, the keys to take away to begin healing your life or continue healing your life. Because like Melissa said, this is ongoing. I don't have a certificate of completion on my wall to say I'm one and done with my healing. No, it's a process. It's going to continue for the rest of my life, for the rest of all of our lives. But there is hope. You can do it. What is it?
You got this. You got this. You can, and you are limitless.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much again, Melissa, for being my guest and being an author in our book. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get our baby book out into the world. And because again, doesn't matter when you read it, it could be years down the road and you pick it up again and you read it, because energy knows no bounds. The healing is there for you. So thank you again, Melissa. I so appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. We love you. Thank you for watching, for listening, wherever you find this show. And remember, you are joy looking for a way to express.